Hunter Biden carries the family name and a lot of baggage.
Well, what did Hunter Biden supposedly do wrong? What would you say?
So the Biden family and the administration, it was access to those people for people in foreign countries, to include Romania, Ukraine, and China, in exchange for a significant amount of money.
This week, we dissect the case with the two IRS whistleblowers who went to Congress to change the course of what they call a cover-up.
Who told you guys you were off the case?
The special agent in charge of the Washington, D.C. field office told us.
They didn't care what happened in this case. They just were trying to silence me.
It's the first time the son of a sitting president has been charged with felony crimes. What else did it reveal?
There's no evidence tying Joe Biden to Hunter Biden's businesses or any improper activities. When you hear that, what do you think?
I think it's blatantly false.
China is moving quickly to advance its military and weapons of war. The Biden administration took some bold steps to keep key technology out of China's arsenal.
This is not a country that has any intention by playing by the rules.
We look at why small chips play a big role in America's future.
Welcome to Full Measure. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. For the first time in modern history, the son of a sitting president is facing felony criminal charges. As that case moves forward, a bigger story might be one that federal whistleblowers are telling. How an alleged bribery trail leading to Joe Biden in 2020 as he ran for president was covered up, allowed to grow cold, then forever buried. It involves Hunter Biden's laptop and business dealings in Ukraine.
The incredible story told by two federal whistleblowers starts in 2018. That's when Joe Ziegler, a criminal investigator at the IRS, says he came across documents that prompted him to look into Hunter Biden, son of former vice president, soon-to-be presidential candidate Joe Biden.
Did you anticipate there might be some kind of pushback?
So I talked to other agents within my group, and they're like, big cases, big problems. And I told them, I'm like, we got to treat everyone the same. Just because their last name is Biden or just because their last name is something doesn't mean that we should change the process of how we work that case.
Gary Shapley oversaw Ziegler's case as supervisor of the IRS International Tax and Financial Crimes Group.
If someone says, well, what did Hunter Biden supposedly do wrong? What would you say?
So the Biden family and the administration, it was access to those people for foreign people in foreign countries, to include Romania, Ukraine, and China, in exchange for a significant amount of money. And the reason why we're involved, or IRS is involved, is that money that was earned, there were tax returns that weren't filed, and that there were taxes not paid on that income.
Documents and testimony allege that when Joe Biden was vice president, he, Hunter, and others in the Biden circle made tens of millions of dollars selling access and influence through shady business deals in Kazakhstan, Russia, China, and two countries where Joe Biden personally took charge over U.S. relations, Romania and Ukraine. This video documents one of Biden's 6 visits to Ukraine as vice president.
They have two great threats, Russian aggression and endemic corruption. And we're prepared to help them tackle both.
At the time, Hunter was collecting a $1 million salary from Burisma, a gas company in Ukraine that was desperately trying to thwart a corruption probe. The IRS agents say they began finding evidence that gave them strong reason to want to look into Joe Biden.
We not only investigate tax crimes, we investigate financial crimes, wire fraud, bank fraud, money laundering, international money laundering. There's all sorts of things that we have in our tool belt to investigate cases. So in this case, we had leads.
The press and many people, actually in both political parties, say things such as there's no evidence tying Joe Biden to Hunter Biden's businesses or any improper activities. When you hear that, what do you think?
I think it's blatantly false. I would wholeheartedly disagree with it.
Confidentiality rules bar them from discussing all of the evidence they've seen, but some now public material helps show why they say they needed to dig into Joe Biden's role, something they say the Department of Justice told them they couldn't do. In 2014, Burisma and its owner in Ukraine were under investigation for corruption. They hired Hunter, in the reported words of one Burisma executive, to protect us through his dad from all kinds of problems. In May 2014, the month after Hunter was hired, Burisma executive Vadim Pozharsky asks Hunter for advice on how you could use your influence. In April 2015, Vadim Pozharsky emails, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together."
Vadim says, "Thank you for allowing me to meet with your father and spend some time with him." Okay? So there's black and white. So the question I'd have as an investigator to Joe Biden, what did you guys talk about? What were the discussions in that meeting? You're in charge of Ukraine policy. Why are you meeting with someone that's involved in your son, your son's a part of this board of directors? Why are you meeting with him?
Months after the arranged meeting on this very trip, Vice President Biden seemingly gave Burisma exactly what it paid Hunter for. He forced Ukraine's president to fire the prosecutor targeting Burisma by threatening to hold back $1 billion in U.S. aid.
Ready to go home?
2 years later, he'd recount details to a Washington, D.C. audience.
I looked, I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired. And
Joe Biden insists the firing was because the prosecutor was corrupt. Meantime, months into the investigation by the IRS team, a trove of evidence fell into the FBI's lap in the form of a computer. Hunter had abandoned it at a repair shop in 2019, 2 weeks before his dad announced he was running for president.
we have to remember who we are. This is America.
The validity of Hunter's laptop was hidden from the public, but the IRS team got a search warrant that pushed the FBI to verify it and access the data. Yet Ziegler and Shapley say the Department of Justice blocked them from examining all the relevant contents.
So we were never allowed to follow those leads that could lead to potential evidence that could move the ball down the hill.
By May of 2020, Biden was steeped in his presidential run against Trump, while Trump's own Justice Department was allegedly throwing up roadblocks to the IRS investigation into the Bidens.
No one in IRS leadership disagreed that there were discrepancies, but they just completely avoided their duties to act autonomously for the IRS, and they just allowed the Department of Justice to do really whatever they wanted, and that really exacerbated this entire issue.
In December of 2020, Ziegler and Shapley say the Justice Department stopped them from executing a search warrant at Hunter's storage unit and went behind their back to tip off Hunter's attorneys.
If someone had committed a crime, they would probably go clean out that unit if they thought you were looking at it.
Yes, that would be what, as an investigator, what I would expect someone to potentially do.
The FBI quietly sat on Hunter's laptop throughout the 2020 presidential campaign.
Hello, Florida!
Then, a month before the election, the New York Post broke the news. Twitter and other social media censored it, and more than 50 ex-intelligence officials signed a letter implying the story was Russian disinformation. Signers included Trump nemesis ex-CIA Director John Brennan. Another signer, former CIA Director Mike Murrow, later testified the pre-election effort to discredit the true story was organized by Antony Blinken, Joe Biden's foreign policy advisor for the 2020 campaign, who went on to become Secretary of State. 2 weeks later, with the laptop story effectively censored, Biden manages a come-from-behind victory over President Trump. Meantime, the IRS team quietly continues navigating roadblocks and pursuing its investigation. By early 2022, they've built their case for multiple criminal charges against Hunter, with the possibility of bigger charges and more people getting in the dragnet.
We ended up recommending the felony and misdemeanor tax charges in February of 2022. February of 2022, it now goes from IRS to DOJ as a recommended prosecution.
But they say they fought more obstruction. The Department of Justice would only allow charges if federal prosecutors located in Washington, D.C. and California, where the alleged crimes occurred, agreed to go along.
So I came to find out that the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office not only said no to partnering or no to bringing or helping us in bringing the charges, but they had also said that we don't think you have a case to bring it here in D.C. California had also said no to bringing charges in their district. So now we have D.C. saying no, California saying no.
It's relatively unusual to be told no once you bring a case and write a report for charges.
Correct. So we find out that California says no, and then May 15th, 2023 happens, and both Gary and I are removed from the investigation.
Who told you guys you were off the case?
The special agent in charge of the Washington, D.C. field office told us.
I wrote a heartfelt email up to the commissioner of the IRS through my leadership chain. I'm like, we need to meet to talk about this as a huge risk for the IRS. And it was met with one of my leaders in my field office saying that I may have broken the law and that I should cease and desist from sending any communication outside the management chain. That's when I knew I had to come forward because they were essentially trying to silence me. They didn't care what happened in this case. They just were trying to silence me.
When we come back, the IRS agents blow the whistle and blow up a sweetheart deal offered to Hunter Biden, but even bigger questions surface. We continue our report on two IRS whistleblowers who uncovered evidence in a 5-year investigation that some say could have led to bribery allegations against Joe Biden himself during his presidential campaign. But they claim they were sidetracked and decided to blow the whistle to Congress. After the IRS pulled them from the case, they learned about shocking FBI evidence that had been kept hidden from them when it mattered the most.
Last spring, after a rocky 5-year-long probe, IRS investigators Joe Ziegler and Gary Shapley were ready to file charges against Hunter Biden, but facing a steady stream of roadblocks from the Department of Justice.
So help you God.
Yes, I do.
They decided to blow the whistle and testify to Congress.
There should not be a two-track justice system depending on who you are and who you're connected to. Yet, in this case, there was.
By the time they testified, the IRS duo had been removed from the Biden case, and the Justice Department negotiated a plea deal, giving Hunter broad immunity for alleged crimes dating back to 2014 and no jail time.
The sweetheart plea deal.
The story might have ended there, but for a federal judge. She rejected the controversial plea deal in July, commenting, "I have concerns about the agreement."
Tonight, a courtroom surprise for President Biden's son, Hunter.
It was immediately clear that this deal was in trouble.
Federal judge raised concerns, calling it atypical and not straightforward.
Under pressure, prosecutors took a fresh look, and this time charged Hunter with a dozen felony gun and tax crimes that could bring 17 years in prison.
Hunter Biden has been indicted on 9 tax-related charges.
But Ziegler and Shapley say a crucial facet of the case may be lost forever. The Justice Department let the legal time limit to file charges expire on serious alleged felonies. They were from when Hunter was collecting millions from the Ukrainian company Burisma, and his dad got the prosecutor targeting Burisma fired.
Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
With the Justice Department letting the statute of limitations pass for those years, Hunter's taxes owed and any leads to other suspects or crimes are gone.
And that would have brought up a bunch of ancillary evidence that would have likely proven either President Joe Biden's involvement or other potential crimes.
Is that off the table now?
2014 and 15 statute of limitations have expired.
They say there's one final outrage. At the very time the Justice Department was blocking their questions about Joe Biden, the FBI had evidence corroborating their leads, even alleging bribery, but kept it secret. A trusted Ukrainian-American source provided the FBI details of meetings with Burisma executives. According to the FBI report, Burisma's founder said he'd been coerced to pay the Bidens millions and had documents showing payments. He had text messages and 17 recordings of the Bidens, including Joe. And it would take investigators 10 years to find the illicit payments to the big guy, understood to mean Joe Biden. It was mid-2020, at the height of his presidential run against Trump. The bribery allegations stood to shake his campaign, but they were kept hidden. This past week, as the Biden controversy heated up on Capitol Hill, prosecutors went after the FBI's own informant, the source who outlined those bribery allegations against the Bidens in 2020, Alexander Smirnov. He's charged with making a false statement and creating a false and fictitious record. We asked Joe and Hunter Biden for interviews, but they declined. Last June, President Biden was asked about the bribery accusations documented in the FBI report.
Where's the money? I'm joking.
Mr. President,
It's a bunch of malarkey.
He's long denied any involvement in his son's work.
I've never spoken to my son about his overseas.
Hunter's lawyer has said if Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, the charges would not have been brought. And the Department of Justice prosecutor bowed to Republican pressure and piled on 9 new charges when he had agreed just months ago to resolve this matter with a pair of misdemeanors. As for the IRS whistleblowers, they're off the Biden case, but still working for the IRS at the moment.
Do you feel you may lose your job over this somehow?
I've received information that they're plotting and planning behind us, and we're prepared for that when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a fear of mine. I mean, the fear of retaliation, the fear of losing my job, losing my income, the fear of what could happen, because you essentially fought with a hornet's nest.
And certainly supporters of the Bidens would probably say or suggest that you are Trump people or conservative Republicans out to grind an axe. What would you say to that?
I'm a Democrat. I am socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I'm a gay man. That is where my principles lie. And at the end of the day, it wasn't about my political beliefs. It was about doing the right thing, holding people accountable if they committed crimes, and doing the investigation like we would normally do.
I mean, ultimately, Republican or Democrat, for us, it's not about that. It's about treating each taxpayer the same. And it was about the facts and the evidence.
Hunter Biden is scheduled to give a deposition to a congressional committee on February 28th. By the way, the computer shop owner who turned Hunter's laptop over to the FBI is suing him for defamation. Hunter is countersuing, alleging invasion of privacy. Hunter has pleaded not guilty to 3 felonies, 6 misdemeanors, and failing to pay $1.4 million in taxes over 4 years. Ahead on Full Measure, can the U.S. stop China from using our own technology against us? The Biden administration has issued broad restrictions on the technology China can buy from the U.S. to advance its military goals and boost its economy. But is it working? Lisa Fletcher takes a look.
China's saber-rattling displays of its military size and might are intended to send a message that the communist nation is a clear and present danger to the United States and the world. So, to cripple China's ambitions, in August of 2023, the Biden administration banned U.S. suppliers from exporting or selling to China the high-tech means it needs to achieve its military goals. The new export rules also ban key advanced chips made outside of the U.S. with American technology from being sold to China.
There's gaps in those rules, and those gaps are such that China can easily circumvent them.
Nazaknik Akhtar is a former assistant secretary for the Department of Commerce. She says China is exploiting loopholes and still able to import what it needs.
This is not a country that has any intention by playing by the rules. The entire Chinese governance system, economic system, business system is aimed to circumvent. What's China going to do?
Akhtar also says the U.S. government has granted some semiconductor companies up to 2 years before they need to comply with the new export rules.
How dangerous is it to give them 1 or 2 extra years?
They know that at some point the gaps in our rules are going to be closed to some degree. That incentivizes them to hurry up and quickly acquire the technology that they need.
If China is able to hoard and control this technology, what does that translate to on the battlefield?
These semiconductor chips in the next generation, you can do quite a bit in terms of weapons, target detection. Let's take hypersonic weapons capabilities. It can not only better detect targets, but it can change target detection based on its flight pattern, right?
China's current command of the world stage arguably began more than 20 years ago when Congress, under the Clinton administration, granted China permanent normal trade relations with the U.S. that paved the way for China's entry into the World Trade Organization, or WTO, which gave China new trading partners and better terms, spurring explosive economic and military growth. That wealth then laying the groundwork for China's dominance on and off the battlefield.
If we can't get it right in terms of semiconductor export controls, we're not going to get it right in AI controls. If the technology is critical enough to control, then it shouldn't be going to China.
China has not taken the sanctions lightly. Last summer, they announced export restrictions on key rare earth minerals essential to the production of high-end chips. For Full Measure, I'm Lisa Fletcher.
Coming up, what's ahead next week on Full Measure? Coming up next week on Full Measure,
the latest installment in our investigation of media mistakes in the era of Donald Trump. After we documented the unprecedented, error-riddled record of top news organizations and their reporting on Trump, we wondered if President Biden would get the same treatment. Well, the verdict is in. What we found is another Biden-Trump race shapes up next week on Full Measure.
Thanks for watching. I'm Sharyl Attkisson.